Patterns of light that seemed almost like language. Slowly, hesitantly she reached out. Seelan pressed her snout against Lyra's palm, warm and smooth. I've spent years studying them, Lyra said, voice thick with emotion, but I never truly saw them until now. That's the problem with distance, Kai replied softly. Some things can only be understood up close. When she turned, his face was so near that her breath caught. Something unspoken passed between them. Recognition perhaps of kindred spirits. A distant rumble interrupted the moment. Cell's head snapped up, her scales flashing warning. Crimson. They back, Kai said grimly, moving toward the cave entrance and closer this time. Lyra followed, heart racing. My assistant would have reported their presence to the GCS headquarters. Help should be coming. Help might not arrive in time. Kai checked the small energy pistol at his hip, barely enough to deter a determined attacker. These aren't ordinary poachers. They're backed by someone powerful, someone who knows about the Bond, who the Helix Corporation. They've been hunting Nix for decades, trying to weaponize them. His expression darkened. My father died protecting our knowledge from them. Lyra touched his arm gently. I'm sorry. Their eyes met, and for a moment the danger outside faded. Then Seelan hissed, breaking the spell. We need to move deeper into the caves. Kai decided there's another exit on the far side of the mountain. They packed quickly, gathering only essentials. Selene grew increasingly agitated, her massive tail lashing against the stone walls. She senses something, Kai said, frowning. Something worse than hunters. A thunderous explosion rocked the cavern, sending dust cascading from the ceiling. Seelan roared, the sound reverberating painfully in the enclosed space. Demolition charges, Kai shouted, grabbing Lyra's hand. They're trying to flush us out. They ran deeper into the cave system, Selene leading the way. The passages narrowed, forcing the massive Nix to crawl in places behind them. They could hear voices echoing off the walls. Were trapped, Lyra realized as they reached a dead end, a vast underground lake with no visible exit. Not exactly, Kai pointed to the water's surface where strange light pulsed beneath. Seelan is calling her family. The lake's surface bulged and broke as another NX emerged, then another. 3 massive creatures, their scales shimmering with patterns of light as they communicated silently with Seelan. They're offering sanctuary, Kai translated, watching the display. But we have to go underwater through their nesting grounds. Lyra stared at the dark water. How long can you hold your breath? Kai smiled, producing in 2 small devices from his pack. These filter oxygen from water. Not comfortable, but they work. The sounds of pursuit grew louder. Lyra took the breather, meeting Kai's eyes. If we survive this, I want to know more about the Nix. About you. When we survive, he corrected, taking her hand. And I want to know everything about you, Lyra. Solheim. Before she could respond, Seelan nudged them both toward the water. With one last look at the cavern, they plunged into the cold darkness. The Nix surrounding them protectively underwater. The world transformed. The Nix glowed brilliantly, illuminating an enormous submerged cavern system. Ancient ruins of some unknown civilization lined the lake floor, covered in luminous coral-like growth. The Nix moved with incredible speed and grace, guiding them through a labyrinth of underwater passages. Lyra's scientific mind catalogued everything, even as her lungs burned from the imperfect breather. But more than the wonders around her, she was aware of Kai's hands still gripping hers, keeping them together as they followed. They're unlikely Protectors, they surfaced in a hidden grotto miles from where they had entered. Gasping as they pulled the breathers. From their mouths sunlight filtered through a small opening high above, revealing a sanctuary untouched by human presence. Young Nyx played along the shores of the underground lake there. She watched in shock as a human tamed the galaxy's deadliest predator. The lavender sky of Helios stretched endlessly above. As Lyra Solheim adjusted her environment suit, 3 weeks of searching for the elusive Nyx had yielded nothing but frustration and dwindling supplies. The Galactic Conservation Society would recall her soon if she couldn't provide evidence that the feared predator still existed in this remote sector. Anything on the scanners, she whispered into her comm unit, knowing her assistant was monitoring from orbit. Nothing yet, Myra replied, her voice tinged with static, but there's an unusual heat signature about 2 kilometers east, not matching Nyx patterns. Though might be another researcher. Lyra frowned. No one was supposed to be in this preservation zone except her team. I'll check it out. Keep monitoring. She moved silently through the silver-leafed forest, each step calculated. The trees whispered around her, their crystalline leaves chiming softly in the warm breeze. According to legend, the Nyx could hear a heartbeat from miles away, sensing fear like a shark senses blood. The clearing appeared suddenly, and Lyra froze at its edge. There, bathed in the golden light of twin suns, stood a human man, tall and lean, with sun-bronzed skin and dark hair pulled back in a loose knot. But it wasn't the man who stole her breath. It was what stood beside him, a NYX, massive and gleaming, its obsidian scales rippling with bioluminescent patterns of deep violet and electric blue. Its 6 limbs ended in curved talons that could slice through titanium, and its serpentine head swayed gently as the man stroked it. Lyra's finger hovered over her emergency beacon. The Nyx was the apex predator of 3 systems, responsible for decimating entire settlements. Yet here it was, nuzzling against a human's palm like an oversized house cat. You can come out, the man called without turning. She knows you're there anyway. Lyra stepped forward, pulse racing. How are you doing that there? Supposed to be untamable. The man turned, and Lyra felt a different kind of shock. His eyes were striking, one emerald green, one deep amber. He smiled, and something fluttered in her chest. Kit Tamir, he offered, and this is Seelan. She's not tamed. We're friends. Friends. Lyra's scientific mind reeled. That's not possible. Nyx are solitary apex predators with highly aggressive territorial instincts. Kai laughed, the sound warm and genuine. Maybe your data needs updating. He gestured to the beast, which watched Lyra with intelligent eyes. Selini meat. Lyra, she thinks you want to eat her. The Nyx made a rumbling sound that vibrated through the clearing, then lowered its massive head in what looked impossibly like a bow. That's extraordinary, Lyra whispered, her researcher's instincts overwhelming her fear. She stepped closer. How did you establish contact? It's complicated, Kai said, his expression growing more serious and dangerous. Knowledge. There are people who would kill for what I know, people who would use them as weapons. I'm not people, Lyra replied. I'm with the Galactic Conservation Society. We're trying to protect them. Kai studied her, his mismatched eyes seemingly peering through to her soul. You're alone out here, my assistant in orbit. We've been searching for weeks, and if you find them, document, observe, establish protected territories, keep poachers away. Kai nodded slowly, then whistled a complex pattern. The Nyx Selini swayed Slightly then stepped closer to Lyra. Lowering her head if you're brave enough. Kai said softly, Shek let you touch her. Lyra's heart thundered in her chest. Years of research, countless expeditions. All leading to this moment. Slowly she removed her glove and raised her hand. Cell scales were warm beneath her. Fingertips pooling slightly with each breath. Beautiful, she whispered. Yes, Kai agreed, but when Lyra glanced up she found him watching her. Not the beast. A warning blared from Lyra's comm unit. Incoming ship. Myra's panicked voice cut through the moment. Signatures matched. Known poacher vessels. Kai cursed, whistling another pattern. Sealant tensed, her scales shifting to a defensive red. We need to go, he said, grabbing Lyra's arm. They've been tracking me for months. My research station is hidden in the northern canyon. Lyra offered. We can. No time. Kai pulled her toward Selene. Trust me. Before Lyra could answer he lifted her onto the Nyx's back, then climbed up by behind her, his chest pressed against her back. Arms encircling her to hold on to scaled ridges. Hold tight, he whispered, his breath warm against her ear. Sealant surged forward faster than anything so large should move. The forest blurred around them as they raced through the underbrush, the beast navigating by some instinct beyond comprehension. This is impossible, Lyra gasped, clinging to smooth scales. Nyx don't allow riders. Most humans don't know how to ask properly, Kai replied, his voice steady. Despite their breakneck pace, my family has passed down the knowledge for generations. They reached a cave hidden behind a waterfall. Sealant slowing only slightly before plunging through the curtain of water. Inside, bioluminescent fungi cast the cavern in ethereal blue light. Kai slid down, then helped Lyra dismount on shaking legs. Welcome to my temporary home, he said with a sheepish smile. Sorry for the abrupt invitation. As Sealant shook water from her scales and settled into a corner, Lyra stared at Kai. You've been hiding here with her, moving from planet to planet, staying ahead of those who want a cage or kill her, he explained. The old stories called my ancestors beast speakers. The truth is simpler. We learn to listen. Teach me, Lyra said impulsively. I want to understand. Kai's eyes widened slightly, then softened. It's not something learned overnight. I'm a quick study. She stepped closer, scientific curiosity and something more personal driving her forward. And it seems we both need to stay hidden for a while outside. They could hear the distant whine of engines. Sealant rumbled warningly, her scales shifting from defensive red to a deep cautious purple. It would seem, Kai said with a small smile, taking Lyra's hand, that we have time for your first lesson. As their fingers intertwined, Lyra realized she'd found something far more fascinating than just the subject of her research in this hidden cave, with a deadly predator watching over them. An unexpected journey was just beginning. 3 days in Kai's hidden sanctuary had changed Lyra's understanding of the universe. The cave system extended deep beneath the mountains, illuminated by the soft glow of bioluminescent fungi that clung to the damp walls. A small underground river provided fresh water, and Kai had created a surprisingly comfortable living space with salvaged items and natural materials. But it was Selene who truly transformed Lyra's worldview. The massive Nyx moved with impossible grace through the caverns, intelligent and aware in ways no scientific report had ever suggested. Each night Lyra added to her data pad, documenting behaviors that contradicted everything known about the species. Your scientific community has it all wrong, Kai said, settling beside her. Near the fire as she made notes. Nix aren't mindless killers, they're sentient. Perhaps as intelligent as humans, just differently. Lyra glanced up, watching as Seelan curled in the larger chamber, her scales shifting to a peaceful blue-green. Why do they attack settlements then? Wouldn't you fight back if strangers invaded your home, killed your kind for trophies and profit? Kai's mismatched eyes reflected the fire-light. Humans expanded too quickly, claimed too much. Without asking, the Nix were here. First, how did your family learn to communicate with them? Lyra asked, setting aside her work. Kai's expression softened. My great-grandmother crashed on a Nix nesting world. By all accounts she should have died instead. She observed, listened, learned their vocalizations and body language. When a wounded juvenile approached her camp, she helped it rather than feared it. He smiled, remembering that bond changed everything. The knowledge passed down through generations. Lyra watched him, fascinated by the passion in his voice. Show me again. Kai stood, offering his hand. Lyra took it, trying to ignore the warmth that spread through her at his touch. He guided her towards Seelan, who raised her massive head, iridescent eyes tracking their approach. The melody is important, Kai explained, standing behind Lyra, but it's more than sound, it's intent, emotion. They sense it. His hands rested lightly on her shoulders. Close your eyes, find the calest part of yourself. Lyra closed her eyes, aware of his breath against her neck, the steady thrum of her own pulse. Kai began to whistle, a complex pattern of notes that seemed to vibrate through her bones. He guided her hands upward, and she attempted to mimic the sound. Her first attempts were clumsy, but on the third try Selene responded, a deep, resonant rumble that Lyra felt more than heard. The Nix rose and approached, lowering her massive head to Lyra's level. She's accepting you, Kai whispered, his hand still on Lyra's shoulders. You're a natural. Lyra opened her eyes, finding herself inches from Sel's face. The creature's scales rippled with